So you've probably heard the phrase, there's no such thing as bad questions. And while that might sound cliche, I want you to really think about it because in business, in leadership, and in growth, questions are your answers. So if you're ever feeling nervous to ask a question, I know this. That feeling is what's holding you back. The hesitation is costing you clarity, opportunity, and speed. The people who grow the fastest, the leaders who succeed the most, are typically the ones willing to ask the questions others are afraid to ask. So think about it. How many times have you sat in a meeting confused about what was being said? Or you were too nervous to raise your hand. Maybe you thought you'd look unprepared, or ultimately maybe you didn't want to slow things down, feared what other people were thinking. And then later you realized everyone else had the exact same question, but ultimately nobody stood up. So that's the moment, and that's the gap between stagnation and typically growth. So the truth is, curiosity is your superpower. It is the pathway to innovation, to deeper relationships, and to ultimately better leadership. So when you ask bold questions, you invite bold answers into your world, and those answers often unlock the next level of success in your business, your career, and sometimes even in your personal life. So here's what I've learned. Every question you don't ask is a missed opportunity. Missed clarity, missed growth, missed connection, and over time, those missed opportunities can really add up. So why don't you, like so many of us, hesitate? Fear of looking dumb, fear of judgment, fear of slowing someone else down. But let me flip that for you for 1 second. What if the very thing you're afraid of asking is the exact thing someone else needed to hear? What if your courage to ask opens the door for everyone else in the room to seek clarity? Questions aren't just about information. They're about ultimately good leadership. When you ask, you lead. You create space for curiosity, dialogue, and progress. And the best leaders, they are relentless question askers. They don't pretend to leave all the answers or have all the answers. And they're open. One of my favorite examples is from the real estate world. So I've coached agents who were absolutely stuck because they didn't want to look inexperienced. They thought asking their broker, what does this mean? Or how do I handle this? Or even asking buyers and sellers certain questions would make them look weak. But when they finally did ask, they almost always broke through. They gained clarity, confidence, and action steps typically needed. And guess what? That one question saved them months typically of frustration and sometimes thousands of dollars. That is the power of questions. So I want to challenge you with, what's the question that you've been too afraid to ask? Maybe it's in your business, maybe it's in your relationships, maybe it's even asking yourself, why am I holding back? Because the second that you voice the question, you open up the possibilities for answers, and answers move you forward, whether you like it or not. So let me leave you with this. Perfection doesn't make progress. Curiosity does. And leaders aren't the ones with all the answers. They're the ones brave enough to ask the questions. So the next time you feel that hesitation rise up, just remember, questions are your answers. Ask them boldly and grow relentlessly.